A very eclectic group of shows this week, including the return of Resident Evil, a new Issa Rae show on HBO, Nathan Fielder with sort of like a surreal comedy kind of thing, also on HBO, and then Netflix brings Rowan Atkinson to a series of shorts with him fighting against a bee. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. Like I said, we've got a very interesting batch of shows this week. Resident Evil, okay, that's kind of run-of-the-mill. We know that. It's from the video game series, from the movies as well, and now it's in a TV show. But the other shows get a little more interesting. We've got the Rehearsal with Nathan Fielder, which is, I don't even know quite how to describe it, but it is a very interesting, almost sort of reality show. His parts are scripted, the other people's are really not. It's really interesting. I'll tell you about it. Everything's trash on Freeform. Issa Rae returns with a show called Rap Beep. I don't really curse on this channel, so you can infer what you want from that. Another adult animated show. We haven't had one of those actually for a little while, but Netflix has a new one called Farzar. And then also Man vs. Bee with Rowan Atkinson, which is a series of shorts on Netflix. So before we get to all of that, of course, it is time for the news of the week. And we're going to start, usually we do renewals and cancellations first, but when there's Jeopardy news with the hosting variety, I usually start with that because we've been through this now for like a year and a half. Alex Trebek died in December of 2020, I guess. And so we did like 8 months of guest hosts and sort of trial hosts. And then they said, oh, well, we're going to, that was all sort of for show. That was all fake. Mike Richards, the executive producer, is just going to make himself the host. So that only lasted a week because the guy was a freaking scumbag. So they kicked him out and fired him from that and his executive producer job on Wheel of Fortune. And then they had Mayim Bialik and Ken Jennings sort of trade off due to scheduling things. Neither one of them could really host the whole year round. So they have now decided a full-on decision. They are going to basically co-host Jeopardy. Not at the same time, not on the same episodes, but they're going to basically do what they did last season, which I think actually worked fine because I really enjoyed both of the hosts in different ways. I think they both bring something unique to the table. Obviously, Ken was a huge winner on Jeopardy, so he brings it, from that side. But then Mayim Bialik is a freaking neuroscientist, so she brings actual, not that Ken's not smart, he obviously is, but I don't know, I feel like he's more trivia smart and she is more academically smart. So I think they both bring their set of skills to the show. Both have, really good rapport with the contestants. And so anyway, what they're going to do is essentially have each one host for a chunk at a time. They're not going to do like, 2 weeks with Mayim, 2 weeks with Ken. No, it's going to be, 3 or 4 months with one of them. And then basically when Mayim is doing her show Call Me Kat on Fox, they're going to, swap out with Ken. And then also there's going to be more of a ramp up with primetime shows and contests for Jeopardy. So Ken is going to start out the year with the Tournament of Champions in September. And then I think he's going to run through December. And then Mayim will be on hand for prime time when they do Celebrity Jeopardy, which they used to do that like 1 week out of the year would be Celebrity Jeopardy. It would be for charity, which I don't know if they've done that since Alex Trebek has passed. I don't think they have. But, ABC is all about the hour-long game shows now, and they have Celebrity Family Feud already, and they have celebrities on a bunch of their other shows as well, like The Pyramid. So they're going to do that in prime time. And they have Celebrity Wheel of Fortune now, too, which is both, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, or Merv Griffin shows. So it makes sense. And then starting, I guess, in January when Call Me Kat is done filming for the year, then Mayim will be on for several months. And there's also going to be some other primetime specials throughout. I think they're doing like a college tournament or something. So anyway, that's the decision. It's going to be both of them moving forward. I like it. I think it's going to be good. All right. So in renewals and cancellations, we'll get to that now. Renewed iCarly for season 3 at Paramount Plus. Obviously, they're really enjoying the feedback they're getting from the reboot. I really enjoyed it, and I never really watched the original. It was sort of peripherally on. People in my life watched it sort of at various times, but I'm a bit older than the target demo for iCarly. But I really enjoyed the reboot. I thought it was funny. For All Mankind, renewed for season 4 at Apple TV Plus, about halfway through the current airing of season 3. They're going to start production this month. And I did watch season 1 of this, which I really enjoyed. In fact, when I first watched it for my Is Apple TV Plus Worth It video, I didn't think it was that good. I think I maybe gave it a C plus or something. And then a few people whose opinions I really, sort of look to were loving it, and they were, oh, this show is so good, and they were posting about it, and I was like, all right, maybe I was missing something. Maybe I just wasn't thinking about it right. So I gave it another chance, and I went through the whole first season, and I really did enjoy it. So that will be coming back for season 4. Lincoln Lawyer for season 2 on Netflix, one of their big breakout shows of the last couple of months. Netflix shows these days, if they're not already established like Stranger Things or Umbrella Academy, they kind of come and go. But this one stayed in the top 10 for quite a few weeks. And so that makes sense that they're bringing that back for season 2. Another one that I enjoyed when I reviewed it. And then a show I don't watch at all, Mayans MC. But it's been renewed for season 5 at FX. I know it's very popular. I don't know really much about it even, but it's renewed for season 5. All right. Couple of shows ending. And these are really shows that one of them has been on a long time. One of them just was in its first season. But they reflect sort of the bigger picture of some of these brands that maybe are going in different directions. So Full Frontal with Samantha Bee is out at TBS after 7 years. And this was a shock. Although I did find it odd. I don't watch the show regularly, but she never ended up going back into the studio after COVID. Most of the hosts eventually, within about a year, or it took even longer than that for some, but all of them eventually got back into the studio. First with no audience and then with the audience. But Samantha Bee never ended up doing that. She had a good thing, sort of, I guess, she felt, just filming stuff around, around her property and whatever. And for some reason, she just never went back to that original format. So, but anyway, this is part of sort of that bigger issue at TBS and all of the Warner-owned, they're called the T stations, T-Nets, TNT, TBS, and True TV. Now, True still, of course, has a bunch of originals on because they're more reality-based or unscripted. But TBS and TNT basically have said they're going to stop supporting original scripted content. The only shows TBS has on anymore is American Dad and the upcoming 4th season of Miracle Workers, which, who knows if that's coming back. Like, TBS pulled the plug on Chad within about 24 hours or something of premiering. So who knows if Miracle Workers is coming back. But then TNT only has 2 shows left, and they are both entering their final seasons, Animal Kingdom and Snowpiercer. So once those are gone, TNT will have no originals, which is, to me, it's crazy. Like, TNT was one of those channels 10 years ago, 15 years ago that had such an incredible slate of dramas. Damages was on there, and I think that's not where Justified, that was FX. But it was Jolie and Isles, is that TNT? I get TNT and USA confused because they ran a lot of the same shows. But anyway, TNT was one of those stations that, you could turn to for a good drama. And then this is sad news for me. Gordita Chronicles, done after 1 season at HBO Max. I really enjoyed the show. I hope it finds another home. But they basically made an announcement that they are going to be moving away from live action programming for kids and families. So they haven't made a decision yet on that other show they did for the kids, the reboot of, I forget the name of it. It was a reboot of an old Nickelodeon show, and it was terrible. I really didn't like it. So it was sad that they canceled this one and not that. But yeah, I guess they are focusing more on adult content, and then sort of for kids, mining their Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera archives for that sort of stuff. So I really like that show. I do hope it finds another home. And then finally, The Flash is going to wrap up at the CW with a 13-episode 9th season. I think it's the longest running of all of their DC shows in its original form. There might have been one that had like a spin-off or something that was more. But yeah, 9 seasons for The Flash. and it's going to end with a half season basically next year. And there again, I mean, that's another network that's sort of moving away from things. They canceled over half of their slate last year in a very bold move that they don't have a ton of replacement shows yet, so it'll be interesting how that goes. All right. In casting news, Kristen Ritter is going to star in this Orphan Black Echoes on AMC. We talked about that a couple weeks ago in Reboots, but this is set in the world of the main series, but takes place in the new future, as it's called. And it's going to explore the scientific manipulation of human existence, much like the original show. And this one revolves around a group of women as they weave into each other's lives and embark on a thrilling journey. And Kristen Ritter is going to be the star of that. I love her. In announced shows, Kate Winslet is at HBO again. We just announced Trust a couple of weeks ago, but now there's another new project with Winslet and HBO. She must have really loved working there after Mayor of Easttown. She must have just been like, this is the place for me. So this one is called, let's see, The Palace. And she, like Trust, she's going to executive produce and star in this. It chronicles a year inside an authoritarian regime as it begins to unravel. And yeah, so looking forward to more Kate Winslet stuff. And then if you have seen the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, big movie. I have not gotten to see it yet, but it's one of the biggest critically acclaimed movies of the year. Showtime has ordered a half-hour comedy pilot from the duo that made that movie, Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan. They're known as the Daniels in the industry. It's called Mason, and they also did Awkwafina is Nora from Queens and Swiss Army Man, so they do a lot of really interesting programming and films. So, interested about that. They're going to direct and executive produce, in addition to the star Nathan Min and Oscar nominee Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead. So that could be interesting. And then final thing to talk about very quickly, odds and ends. ABC is going to air a Norman Lear 100 Years of Music and Laughter special in September. They, of course, have been in the Norman Lear business for a long time on ABC. Although I guess CBS aired a lot of the original shows, but they've been doing at ABC the live in front of a studio audience, and that's all based on Norman Lear existing scripts from the 70s and 80s. So that's been going. They've done 3 of them now. And yeah, he's going to be 100 years old. I don't know if it's in September, but it might be because he turned 99. Yeah, I think it was last year. So, so there you go. Hopefully, and not to jinx it, but hopefully it does not suffer the fate of the Betty White 100-year special that was, slated for January of this year. And then, of course, she passed like 3 weeks or something before that. So, so hopefully we have, better luck there with Norman Lear. But all right, so let's get into the review, shall we? We've got Resident Evil first up. This is on Netflix. It was in the tops of their shows for at least a week or two. I think it's still up there in the top 10. But this is, of course, based on the video game series, which has had a ton of spinoffs. They did the movie series, but then there was also an animated show called Infinite Darkness. And so this show is set in its own universe, but features kind of the storyline from the video game as a backdrop. But it's really veering off from just doing the same storylines from the video game, just sort of set in the world. Lance Reddick is the star of this. Always great to see him. I guess, I don't know what people most know him from. I guess maybe, what was that show on Fox? Fringe, right? I think that's probably where I most know him from. But he plays the clones of these people, Albert Wexler and some of these other people. Ella Balinska, I'm not familiar with her, but she plays the other sort of lead in this. I mean, it's really kind of an ensemble piece. There's a lot of stuff going on with it, but yeah, it involves clones and zombies, obviously, zombies, vampires, all that kind of stuff. Umbrella Corporation, of course, is the main hub here. Yes, Umbrella is back, and we go 14 years in the future here. But we also go sort of, it's one of these shows that shifts from present day, future, present day, from scene to scene. And so, from the actors because they're different people playing the younger versions. But yeah, this one doesn't do it very seamlessly like some other shows we could mention, like This Is Us or something. But because of that, because of the time shift, there's also actually 2 completely different timelines. So, it gets very confusing, and perhaps with some better writing, it might have been more seamless, but not so much with this one. The acting and scripts are subpar, and I really think Netflix needs to kind of focus their efforts on quality over quantity, because it's almost every week we have at least one Netflix show. This week we've got two. But they're churning them out because they're like, oh well, if the more shows we churn out, the more we're gonna get those subscribers and stuff. But they've started to lose subscribers. That was in the news recently. And they're still way above everybody else for the programming and watch time and stuff. But they do have a couple of, super mega hit shows in Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy. Some of the female-oriented shows like Virgin River do very, very well. But for, every one of those, they have like 5 shows that just go nowhere. They spend a bunch of money on it, and it's nonsense. And this is one of those shows. I feel like they thought, oh, well, we've got a big name with Resident Evil. Let's throw it up. But, the movies even have been really, really diminishing on the returns. They tried a reboot last year at the movies that was terrible. Did not get good reviews, both critically or commercially. And the people that play these games, I think, want something else. The first movie, I think, was pretty much beloved in the gaming community. Maybe not so much by critics, but I think people that played the games liked that first movie. They thought it, it really kind of reflected the game, at least from the people I've talked to. But the more it sort of veers away from the plot of the video game, or even any of the main characters or something, it becomes this like mishmash of just like, okay, let's have some just different ideas. Oh, Umbrella Corporation's evil. Okay, well, what can they do now? And it's just ideas that never fully connect. And that's this show in a nutshell. And I really like Lance Reddick. He is good here. He's obviously got that sort of authoritative voice and is commanding, but it just doesn't come together. It just, the script lets everybody down at every turn, and then the acting is pretty subpar as well. I guess there were a couple of interesting, sequences with action and stuff, but this is a very dark show. It's dimly lit, so it's one of these where it's like, sometimes you have to struggle to see what's even going on. So for me, this is a sure miss. I give Resident Evil a D+. All right, next we go to HBO for The Rehearsal, and this is with Nathan Fielder. It's on Friday nights, and Nathan Fielder is a very subversive comedian. I feel like he is not maybe quite in the vein of an Andy Kaufman, but something sort of in that vein where it's very original, stuff that we have not seen before. Nathan For You was his old show, and this is sort of, it's in that vein. It's not necessarily a follow-up specifically, but it's in that vein. And basically, he helps, like in that other show, he helps ordinary people here, with their problems. And in this one, The Rehearsal, he helps them rehearse difficult conversations or life events through the use of these lavish sets and actors hired to emulate every different scenario. So in the first episode, he takes this guy who has a lie that he's been keeping from his one friend about his education past. And so Nathan, not only, before he even meets with this guy, he has, people come to his house pretending to be like the electricians or the meter readers or something. And they survey the house. They take all these creeper pictures. And so Nathan, on his own, sets up a set of this guy's apartment. They bring in a guy to play the actor, and they rehearse Nathan's interactions with this guy before we even get to the real guy who is going to talk to this girl. And then they recreate the set of this bar they go to all the time, down to the T. Like, there's a balloon floating in the ceiling at this bar in real life, and they recreated that even, and the way the bar is set up. Like, the amount of man hours and work hours that went into this is insane for, what I thought not really much payoff, but it was so interesting to watch. It was so engaging. And then, he ends up sort of telling the guy honestly, some things that he did to recreate things, and the guy gets pissed at him. So these are real reactions from real people. But then what's weird is the show takes an interesting twist in episode 2, because he is dealing with this woman who wants to be a mother, but she is saving herself for marriage. So in her 40s, she's still a virgin, and she wants to try and adopt a kid. So they get these child actors, baby actors, kid actors, and every week or whatever, they're gonna just do a new set, an up aging of these people. And then there's a twist at the end of the episode that I'm not going to reveal, but it makes the rest of the season, I think, about this one woman. So it was like the first episode, the pilot was kind of like a one-off, and then I guess the rest of the season is this woman, and her issues, and we're going to deal with that storyline. So I don't know. I thought it was going to be more like one episode at a time from that first episode. So it's already sort of changing its pattern, but that's Nathan. That, you just never know what to expect. I first knew him from Conan O'Brien interviews, and he was just super weird and subversive. One time he was saying oh, I don't think my story is going to be good enough. I don't know if I'm going to be a good enough guest. I brought a backup guest, and it was Susan Sarandon, and she came out and just sat there and didn't say a word. It was so weird. So look, I am going to grade this show with a huge asterisk and a question mark, because I think it depends. If the rest of the season is about this one topic, I'm not sure if I love that aspect of it. But this is certainly the most unique thing I have seen in a long time, and it certainly gets points for that. It's at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I can see why. This is so unique. I'm going to leave The Rehearsal with a B+. But that could fluctuate wildly by the end of this season, because I'm curious as to see if the whole season is going to be about this other issue. I think I would prefer more a standalone, episode format. But all right. So next up, we're going to go to Freeform. Everything's Trash is the show. And this is one of the few cable networks that is still churning out original content. You've got FX, you've got a couple of them, but Freeform, tons of original shows on there, and we review them probably every month or so. There's a new one. Single Drunk Female, I'm excited, has been renewed. But all right, so this stars Phoebe Robinson as someone named Phoebe. I don't believe her last name is Robinson, so she's not necessarily playing herself, but she's from the podcast Two Dope Queens, which was very popular. I don't think it's on anymore, but she plays a podcaster navigating her messy but amazing life. Her brother Jaden emerges, though, as a leading politician, and she sort of, through her own podcast and through her own actions, could mess up his chances in the running. Jordan Carlos plays him. The other person I know really is this guy Moses Storm. He's sort of the white guy on the show. But he was in that Sunnyside show with Cal Penn that I liked a couple of years ago on NBC. But this is another one in the sort of vein of, a bunch of 20-somethings hanging out, living their lives, being friends, and obviously, Friends, NBC's Friends is the main template for all of these shows, but, there's some How I Met Your Mother there and whatever. And since this does have, the black flavor, it makes you think of, Martin. That was a big one back in the day about a bunch of friends hanging out. Living Single was maybe another one. And more recently, one of my current favorites, Grand Crew. So I like the show a lot. I think Phoebe Robinson is funny. I've seen her in other things, not as the lead, but I didn't listen to Two Dope Queens, but both of the people on that, I've seen their projects, and I've always, enjoyed them. I like the sort of humor here with her relations to her family and her friends, and sort of the way she interacts with them. That's sort of my style of comedy. The thing I hate the most about it is the podcast thing. I know that she is legitimately from a podcast, but I think we've done this to death, have we not? The Sex and the City reboot. Oh, now Sarah Jessica Parker's on a podcast instead of being a writer. And God Friended Me on CBS. Oh, he's got a podcast where he's going to find God. I get it. Everybody's got a podcast. But I think they could have come up with something a bit more original for that. But I do like the angle with the brother being a politician, and that sort of interacting with her, and I guess because she's a I mean, I guess she could be an influencer too, but that's been done to death at this point also. But I guess maybe we needed that sort of plot line to dovetail with the brother, but I don't know. I mean, I think there could have been other ways around it. But what's interesting enough, and we're going to talk about the new Issa Rae show next, this to me has a kind of Insecure vibe. The Issa Rae show that aired for years on HBO. It's definitely more family friendly because it's on Freeform, but it deals with, I think, a lot of similar topics and similar issues, and it definitely is rooted, I think, in Black culture, but not as much as Insecure, but certainly it's palatable for everybody, and it's relatable. That's the thing. Like, I think I like Grand Crew because I do feel like it's relatable, and I don't feel like left out when I watch it, which I didn't really with Insecure either, but I loved Insecure so much, by the way. But yeah, this to me has that kind of vibe, like sort of blending maybe the podcast Two Dope Queens with the Issa Rae kind of sensibilities. And I do enjoy that. So I'm going to leave Everything's Trash with a B+. All right, up next is Rap S. This is the Issa Rae show on HBO, and she's not in it, but she created it and she writes it. I don't know if she writes all the episodes, but she wrote at least the first two, the ones that I watched. And it basically follows Mia Knight and Shauna Clark, two high school friends who were estranged, but they come together, in their, I guess, mid-20s probably, to form a rap group. One of them, Shauna, works at a hotel, sort of as the person that hands out, like, towels and stuff at the spa. And then the other one is a single mother working multiple jobs to support her and her daughter. And so this definitely has the Insecure sensibilities in the sense that there's all rap music throughout it, and of course these guys are aspiring rappers, so there's their own music, but then the entire soundtrack is current hip hop music and stuff, and it's very, very entrenched in the rap community, which is something that I'm familiar enough with. I'm not a complete square, but it's sometimes I like a little more variety, certainly. But look, we've got tons of shows and movies where classic rock is the only soundtrack or whatever. But usually they're not about people wanting to be classic rock musicians. So this is like every corner of this is rap. And that is fine. But what I do not really care for in this show is it is mostly set to influencer culture, with most of the scenes being shot as like Instagram videos, TikToks, or Instagram stories, whatever they're called. TikToks, all of that sort of stuff. And first of all, it's not original anymore, because we've seen a lot of stuff in the last 2 to 3 years where many scenes are taken sort of from that perspective. Oh, I'm doing, a TikTok right now, or I'm doing this, whatever. And you see like the bubbles on the side of the screen with comments and the reacts and that kind of thing. It's not new. We've seen it, many, many times before. Insecure was something so new that Issa Rae did. And this is, I think, a little more by the numbers because of that. But also, for somebody that is not really on social media, like I do Facebook and I do Snapchat, I have an Instagram and I have a TikTok, but more to look at, my friends and my nephew's stuff, as opposed, like, I don't really post on there myself. And this is firmly entrenched in that culture. And so for somebody that doesn't really scroll or do any of that stuff on my own, I don't know that I want to watch a whole show where, like, I would say 80% of it is under the lens of, oh, this is, a Snapchat video, this is a live feed, this is a whatever, and you're watching what's on the screen, and okay, fine, you get to watch, the scrolling thing as well. And it's not that I don't have the attention span for that. I can do both. I mean, I watch most of my shows with closed captioning anyway, so I'm not averse to reading while I'm watching. But it's a culture that I just don't care about. Not necessarily the rapping, but more the social media, like, let's shoot this as a live video. And so through that, unfortunately, we don't get to know the characters that well. Because, look, everything on social media is for a show, right? Or most of what's on social media. So these characters, we see them through the lens of their social media output, but we never get to really know them as the people they are. So, in that respect, I think it does the characters a bit of a disservice. So, look, I think this one is going to be divisive. I think huge fans of Issa Rae and Insecure may love this. I do like Issa Rae a lot. I think I actually prefer her acting over something that she writes and does not act in. If she writes it and acts in it, then great, because I do think she wrote most of Insecure. But I love that movie she did with Kumail Nanjiani, The Lovebirds. I don't think she had anything to do with the writing in that, but that was very funny. I really like her comedic timing. I like her comedic sensibilities. And here we see some of that on the screen, but it's through these other people that I didn't really get to know. I didn't really care about them. So I leave Rap S with a C. Your mileage certainly may vary on that, but all right. Farzar is next. I guess this is Netflix too. So really, we have 3 Netflix shows this week. My God. And this is another adult animated series that really goes for the potty humor, the cursing. Oh, we're on Netflix. We don't have to write jokes. We can just, be dirty, and that's the bit. That's the joke. Which is a little hint maybe for my review. But Prince Fickle, not Michael, Fickle, and his crew ventures out of their domed human city to fight evil aliens. As they begin their journey, Fickle quickly discovers that maybe he is not as popular as he thought, and his whole life could be a lie. So in the vein of a lot of these shows, and there's some that I like. Lance Reddick, by the way, is in this one too. So we've got a double dose of Lance Reddick this week. But most of the people in this are typical names that you see in animation. Gray Griffin, Jerry Minor, David Kay. Their names maybe you don't know, but you've heard their voices probably in different series along the years. But this is another one where there's nothing here resembling a script or jokes. It's just like, oh, let's show this guy masturbating, and let's show this woman cursing and just slicing people's heads off and just saying a bunch of F-bombs. It's like there's no jokes here. I didn't laugh once, and in fact, opposite. It angered me watching this because I'm like, this is so stupid. Where are the jokes? Like adult animated shows, I think, and it started with Family Guy, which I don't like Family Guy, but the one thing about Family Guy I do like is it does have good jokes. They're just not in any semblance of plot or anything. It's just, oh, remember that time we did this, and then they flash back to it, and it's a funny gag, but it's like, it's just a show of gags. There's no coherent plot throughout, and it started sort of there, and then has just progressed along the years. And so now a lot of adult animated series are just in this vein of, oh, well, if we just say a bunch of curse words and talk about sex and dirty things and, that, oh, I can't believe a cartoon said that, it's a waste. And I've talked about it so many times with other shows and other movies I've reviewed. So I don't need to go really too much off on that again. But this is just another one in the long line. I only watched 1 episode. I usually try to give you 2 to give it a fair shake. I barely got through 1 episode of this. It is that bad. So I leave Farzar with an F. Just write a script instead of just, look, I can make sex jokes too, or sex references. I shouldn't even say jokes. They're not jokes. Anyway, all right. Enough of that. So let's stick with Netflix then for the final. This is Man vs. Bee. And I guess I've been doing a lot of these more short form programs lately, because last week we did the new Baymax show. But what's nice about these is I usually get to watch the whole series because it doesn't take too long. These are, I think, 8 episodes maybe of this, but they're all between like 9 and 11 minutes when you cut out the sort of the credits, or there's 9 episodes. That's what it is. There's 9 episodes, but really it's 10 because the first one is 19 minutes. So that's kind of like a double episode, but it's Rowan Atkinson, from Mr. Bean and many movies, doing his thing. He does talk a little bit in this, not a ton, but he is basically this guy who is down on his luck, looking for, any kind of job. So he finds this job house sitting for this really rich family, and he finds himself at war with a bee. And at first it's like, oh, you're annoying, get out of here, bee. And then it becomes sort of a mission of his, I don't care if I wreck this whole house. Let's kill the bee. So look, this is repetitive. I will say that. And with all 10 episodes, I think the runtime was a little under 2 hours. I think it was maybe like an hour and 45 minutes. So that's, look, that's your typical movie length, right? So could this have been a movie? I actually don't think so. I think it would have been a really, really thin plot for a movie. But as a series of shorts, I guess it kind of works a little bit more because you can sort of, get up between them and whatever, and you don't have to watch all of them at once. I think as a movie, this would have been kind of tedious, to be completely honest. But look, Rowan Atkinson is a master at physical comedy. We know this. And he has got to be, how old is he? He's got to be in his at least 50s. He might be in his 60s at this point. Let me see, because he started, I know, in Blackadder was like the 80s, right? Oh my gosh, he was born in 55, so he is 67. Man, he looks great. He looks the same as he did the last 30 years, so he looks fantastic. But I thought like mid-50s probably, but no, he is in his later 60s. God bless. And he's still doing all of these crazy physical things. This is, another one that's fairly family-friendly. He does show his butt in one scene, but because he doesn't talk that much, there's not really a ton of, language issues, and there's not really, it's mostly him and the bee, so there's not really even a second person to, have sexual tension with or anything. He does video chat with his daughter and his ex-wife, but for the most part, it's just him and this bee going at it. And the results are pretty funny. It's silly. It's certainly silly, but it's nice to see that he has not lost really a step of that physical comedy from the Mr. Bean days or the Johnny English days. I think Rowan Atkinson does not get enough credit for his humor. I guess in England he probably does. I'm sure he's a cherished humorous hero there, but here in America, some people know him, but maybe not others. And he's not, I wouldn't say he's like an A-lister, here in the States, but I think he's underrated. This was very funny. But again, a very, very thin plot line. I mean, I think, anything that could happen does, and so it's a bit predictable in some ways, but he keeps it very funny. So I leave man versus bee with a B. All right, so that will do it. Some ones certainly to stay away from this week. Maybe give Rap S a try on HBO if you are an Issa Rae fan, or if you are, entrenched in that social media world. Maybe you'll get more out of it than I did, but I just wish we could have gotten more characterization there with that one. But all right, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week on Damn Reviews It. Bye.